For me, it's about legacy building. It's about teaching people that they can do anything that they put their mind to. My mom had me when she was 15. Dad been in jail my whole life. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. So my goal is to inspire you to take massive action and do something for yourself, build generational wealth, show yourself that you can do it, but you first have to believe it and take massive action and have that rich state of mind. So what I do is I just help people to find untraditional ways to build wealth and how to make money 3 to 5 times off the same dollar. I teach people how to utilize tools that very few people know to tap into to build tax-free income, tax-free wealth, so that they can, multiply their money, make more money, and also manage their money. I am a Hall of Fame financial advisor. Been a financial advisor for 16 years. Got my own company, multi-million-dollar financial firm, and now I coach and train others around the world to really manage their money and make the best of it and build generational wealth and get away from what society tells you is the right way to build wealth. Because there's a reason why 76% of people run out of money, and I try to break those molds and break the curse.
Oh, so real quick, you had me think of a question right off the cuff with that. What are some ways that people are losing money? That 76%.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of ways that people are losing money unknowingly and unnecessarily. It's almost like if what you thought to be true about money turned out not to be true, when would you want to know about it? You
Now.
see, exactly, right? First time you played tic-tac-toe, who won? Was it you or was it the person that showed it to you?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the person that showed it to you. So what I learned is the hardest part about learning something new is unlearning something that you think you know. It's things that you know that you know. Like I know how to tie my shoe. There are also things that you know that you don't know. I know I don't know how to give surgery. So if I wanted to learn it, I can go to school and I can learn it. But then there are the things, the blind spots is what I call it. These are the things that you don't know that you don't know. And if you don't know that you don't know it, you can't YouTube it. You can't Google it because you didn't even know you didn't even know it. So you need somebody to kind of reveal it to you. And hopefully that's what we're going to do today and reveal it. So for example, one of those things is going to be, thinking that you have to overfund your 401k when you're on your job, thinking that your 401k is the best place to put your retirement money, not realizing in most cases you're putting that money in prison until you're 59 and a half. You can't even touch it without a 10% penalty. Even if you take a loan against that money, if you leave the job, now they're going to tax you and penalize you 10% if you're under 59 and a half. You think that traditional markets is all that there is, like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And that's cool. But what happens when the market is tanking and losing 30 to 40%? What is your plan B? What is your additional option on how you're saving money? So again, we are taught to work, 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 save money into our 401k and save it until we are, retiring. We're 65. And then hopefully you can make that money last for the rest of your life. But you're living off of 70% of your income and you're paying taxes. And if tax rates go up, that can actually take a lot of that money away. So how do we put you into a position where not only do you have consistent income, you have tax-free income, you have income that grows, and you're also building a legacy for the next generation?
And so, yeah, how can somebody do it? Because you saying something like that, right? There's millions of people that believe in a 401k plan, right? They live and die by it. They know. And then for me being in the military, we have thrift savings plan, got the TSP.
Yep.
So that's something that people really rely on, their pension and their
Yeah.
TSP. And so you're saying, hey, that's, money prison. What would be
Yeah.
my option?
There are different options, like when you got a 401k, 403b, or TSP, where you have a traditional one, and you also have they allow you to contribute as a Roth too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you contribute as a Roth, that's the lesser of two evils. That's not bad because at least your money grows tax free, and you can actually eventually pull it out tax free as well. So that's not bad, but it's still the government plan, especially the TSPs, are still limited to the amount of options that you have. So you're very limited to your options and different things like that. So we want to give you for more freedom. So what I like to do is I like to do what's called leverage and becoming your own bank first. So becoming your own bank means that I like to actually funnel money through a vehicle, life insurance, but not the traditional form of life insurance. It's very important because 95% of plans don't really grow a cash value. The fees are too much. And most companies don't even know how to structure it the right way to use it as a wealth creation vehicle. So when we're structuring these things, we're structuring it actually we want the lowest death benefit for the highest amount of cash value. And when we structure it that way, now that cash value, we can borrow against it. And the beauty of borrowing against it, you can actually grow your money 2 times, 3 times off the same dollar. Because if I got $100,000 in my cash value and it's growing at 5% every year, it's going to grow at 5% whether I leave it alone. It's going to still grow that same 5% if I borrow against it, because I'm actually not taking from it. I'm borrowing against it, just like I was borrowing against a home equity line of credit. So it's still going to grow. So I got 100. I borrow, 30,000. That 100 is still growing by 5%. So next year it's 105, even though I borrowed 30 because I leveraged it, and I don't even have to pay it back. If I don't pay it back, they're going to subtract it from my death benefit when I die. Although I don't have to pay it back, I choose to pay it back, and I recommend you pay it back, because what it does is it increases your borrowing capacity over time, to borrow more and more and more as you go along.
Is there a cash limit to this type of life insurance package as far as how much you can grow it to?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's not really a limit. However, there's rules that you have to abide by. So, for example, in the old days, you used to be able to, really wealthy people used to be able to dump just like 100,000, $1 million, just easy in there, because they know it would avoid taxation for the rest of the time and it can grow.
Mm-hmm.
But then they did set a rule in there where, um, if you dump a lump sum in there one time and never really put money into it again, it's going to be considered what's called a MEC, which is a modified endowment contract. That simply means that since you're treating it like a lump sum 401k or IRA or TSP, they're going to treat it that way, which means that it'll be a taxable event when you attempt to borrow against it and do things like that. But if you meet what's called the 7-pay rule, which means that you plan to pay it for at least 7 years, then anything you borrow against it, all of the growth, everything is going to be completely tax free. So the companies that I work with in my financial firm, it has a no MEC policy, which means that even if you did fund it too much and break the rules, they're not even going to let you. They're going to send you the money back and let you know that you're breaking the rules on it, to not allow you to have to be subject to that tax type of penalty.
Okay, great. So, with I'd say normal whole life insurance policies, usually you don't have any cash value until or you can't access it until like the 5-year mark.
Yep.
With the way that you're trying to structure life insurance, how fast can somebody access the cash value?
30 days.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
30 days. So we structuring it. We can borrow up to like 70 to 80%, 70 to 80% after about 30 days into the policy. So again, like, now I want to make sure that I'm clear and tell you not just what this is. Let me tell you what this is not. This is not a situation that you put in $500 and you got a $300,000 death benefit and you can borrow $300,000. Because I get people all the time they say, I thought you said I can borrow all of the money from the death benefit. So you really think there's something out there that you can put in $100 and they're going to let you borrow $300,000 because you put in $100? No, it don't work that way. You don't borrow against the death benefit. You borrow against your cash value. Your cash value is only what you have put in. So it does take you putting the money in before you can borrow against it. So you might be thinking, well, what's the point? If I'm putting the money in and then I'm just borrowing against my own money, what's the point? You got to understand the type of person that you need to be. There's 3 different types of people when it comes to money. You got a debtor, you got a saver, and then you have a wealth creator. The debtor is somebody who, obviously they borrow from money and then they spend their life trying to pay it back. They never get over the rat race. Then you got your the saver. The saver, they save, and then they pay cash. A lot of people are like this, especially military people. They're going to save, and then they're going to pay cash. They save, and then they pay cash. Well, that sounds great because you're not going into debt. But the problem is that every time you pay cash, you're stopping the forward momentum of your money every single time. If you had 10,000 and you paid cash for something that was 8,000, now you only got 2,000 left, and you're only making interest based on 2,000. Now you got to build yourself back up to the $10,000. Might take you a few months or even a few years to get back to that level. And then you're starting to make a gain again on top of that 10,000. So you just lost 3-4 years. But a wealth creator knows that they never want to go backwards. They only want to go forward. So they leverage against themselves. So When I save into my wealth creation fund and I got 10,000, now when I borrow against it, I'm still, if I borrow 8,000 against it, I'm still getting paid interest on the 10,000, not on 2,000. And if I don't pay it back, it's subtracted from my death benefit, which is always going to be higher than my cash value. So if my death benefit is 50,000 and my cash value is 10,000, and if I die, well, now that 8,000 plus interest is going to be subtracted from the death benefit, and my heirs are going to be able to get the rest. So that always allows me to double leverage my money in those particular situations. And if I do it right, the money that I do borrow, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy me an asset such as real estate, or such as renting out a vehicle, or such as getting me a franchise, like you got a franchise, where I can now make money on a business and make money on their life insurance at the same time.
And so that's what actually attracted me to the whole concept, is because before I bought the franchise, I was able to buy the franchise because I'm a real estate person by heart. The franchise idea was really for my wife, for her being patient with me, putting up with me with real estate, especially during COVID. So I was like, okay, cool, because I'm thinking about it like a HELOC, home equity line of credit, right? I can borrow from it, except instead of borrowing from my house, which I'm not getting any interest back on that when I put the money back, the bank is. This, I can make myself richer times two.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, certain communities, how they say money doesn't leave their community. That's why they're wealthy. They recycle inside of their own community over and over. Well, I know African Americans, it's a very well-known fact that money don't stay within the community, because it goes outside of the community before it ever recycles back into it. A lot of the times, it's kind of thinking along similar lines. Now only you are the business, you are the culture, you are the nation. So is your money going to stay in your own community, or is it gone after just one generation? You got to say, how can we keep that dollar and keep it flowing and recycling that money over and over and over, which means we want to create pregnant money. So what that means is that you want the parent to grow up, your savings, which is a parent, to grow up big enough and invest it so you can start becoming pregnant and creating money babies. And now you created that money baby. Now you want to nurture that money baby and allow it to grow and produce until it's old enough to reproduce after its own kind and produce more money babies. But the problem is too many people killing off the parent before the parent has an opportunity to become pregnant and produce a baby.
That makes sense. It's funny, it does. And you got me thinking about, how can I fit that life insurance policy into a trust to ensure that those babies continue to, come about?
Now you thinking, bro. And that's one of the things I recommend too. So you get the life insurance policy, you place it into the trust. Let me tell you how. There's a book. I wrote a book. It's called Become Your Own Bank Book. I talk about this in my book, Become Your Own Bank Book.com. Become Your Own Bank Book.com. You can get it. It's like $37 or so. But there's another book called What Would the Rockefellers Do? And they talk about how the Rockefellers use this concept to still be one of the wealthiest. People don't even realize the Rockefeller owns stuff that you don't even know about. Like Spelman College is owned by the Rockefellers. It was Laurie Spelman Rockefeller who actually purchased and who has Spelman College. That's after her name, Spelman Rockefeller. Like, it's so many things that they still own today, because what they did was they actually created trust. It's a dynasty trust. I call it the Rockefeller Trust. And then they set up a family board around this trust. Somebody died, got a life insurance policy. It went to the trust. The family board would be able to dictate what happens. They can write contracts around that. And if one of the Rockefellers wanted to start a business, they would have to come before the family board and say they want to borrow against it, just like it's their own bank. They would approve that loan. Young Rockefeller would go out and start a business. That business would be profitable. They would pay the loan back. Remember, the loan continued from the policy, continued to grow as if they never touched it. And they would do those things over and over and over. And they would write the policy, the death benefit, to the trust. So every time somebody dies, it recycles back into the trust again. And they got this whole Rockefeller endowment fund, this trust that's based off of a family concept. That's why their money lasts from generation to generation to generation. Whereas if you look at the Vanderbilts, for example, their money, they were just as wealthy as the Rockefellers, but their money didn't last because they didn't do this concept. They spent it all mostly on every generation. They kept buying big things. They didn't recycle it. They didn't have a board set up. So if you think about that, how can you make it your own? Just set up a trust You can really get around with your family and set up a family bank the same way if you really wanted to get on an advanced level. But at least you can write that trust and you can control your money from the grave. You can actually say, let's just say you got two kids that's very financial responsible, and then one kid that's older that they're a good kid, but for whatever reason, financially, they just didn't inherit those genes. You can actually write off in the trust that when they get this money, um, you can set certain parameters, like they get so much per month, and control it from the grave, or they get this once they complete this training, or once they get this degree, or what they like. You can set parameters along the way, even if you're not here. You can do those things, or you can even set like if you got a kid that's married and maybe you're not too sure about the person that they married to, instead of you dying and 50% of that automatically belonging to the spouse or the ex-spouse, you can set it up where it skips a generation and goes to the grandkid. You can do all of that stuff if you have the right type of trust set up, and that's very powerful. Even from a tax perspective, if you structure an irrevocable trust, you can actually avoid certain estate taxes if you're rich enough, which could be taxing you as much as 55% of that money.